안녕하세요, 터미입니다. Today I would like to introduce the top 3 worst ways to study Korean that you should not do. I basically think that everyone should have their own ways of studying. However, these 3 wrong ways to study Korean I'm going to introduce today are typical patterns of insufficient study methods for everyone. Moreover, this is a pattern that beginners, especially those who have just started studying Korean, tend to end up. In this article, I have ranked the top 3 worst study methods based on my own judgment. These are as follows. Worst 3, not outputting. Worst 2, distracted studying. The worst, not setting goals and plans. If you're doing any of the wrong study methods described here, please refer to this and reconsider your study methods. If you do, you will be able to study in the shortest possible time without wasting time or money. Furthermore, I'll explain what kind of study you should do, so please stay with me till the end. Now, let's look at them one by one. 그럼 시작할게요. The third worst study method is not doing any output. This is indeed not good. There is input and output in language learning. In fact, there are very few people who are aware of this, and most people only do input learning. Input is the act of taking in new information, and output is the act of taking out as your own thing. Reading and studying reference books is considered input learning. You will see a lot of exemplary Korean sentences and answers. However, if you're done just with inputting, your knowledge will remain useful. For example, if you learn how to introduce yourself in a textbook, most people probably won't be able to introduce themselves even if they are asked to do so. In other words, if you don't practice using the knowledge you've taken in beforehand, you won't be able to use it when the time comes. On the contrary, if you have practiced such output enough, you will be able to understand the meaning of what you have learned more deeply. Therefore, as those who have taken my beginner's course know, we actually read it aloud and try to pronounce it with your own mouth after listening to a conversation in my courses. Also, I always give the students homework to write a composition at the end of the course. Once I show them my model answers, I ask them to write their own sentences in their own words. For the vocabulary homework, I don't just ask the students to memorize the words, but I also ask them to try the quiz after memorizing them. This is because students think they have memorized the words by looking at them most of the time. You need to take the knowledge you have memorized and pull it out of your head. Then you can confirm whether you have actually acquired the knowledge by checking if your knowledge is correct or not. Knowledge learned through input alone has a low retention rate, but knowledge learned through output has a high retention rate. I'm going to tell you something important now. Output immediately after you input. Ta-da! This is the hardcore principle of efficient language learning. The second worst study method that you should not do is distracted studying. Distracted studying is something like studying while watching TV or playing with your phone. Humans cannot concentrate on many things at a time. Therefore, studying while watching TV or playing with your phone is not really studying. Also, people's ability to concentrate does not increase in an instant, but requires a certain amount of time. So if you are studying while watching TV, you are studying without being able to concentrate. TV is not a problem if you don't go to the room where TV is, but it is more difficult to handle a smartphone as it is something you carry around with you all day long. My recommendation is to turn off your phone while studying and even leave it in the next room if you can. It is very important to keep distracting things out of your sight. Also, make sure to clean your desk first when you study. Make sure that there is nothing on your desk that is not related to your studying. It may seem obvious, but the best way to concentrate on your studies is to create an environment where you don't have to think about anything other than your studies. Of course, some people may find it difficult to turn off their phones or other devices because they may receive a call from someone important. But for example, just putting it on vibrate and keeping it out of sight can be effective. Try not to have your phone on your study desk as much as possible. Also, the most controversial aspect of distracted studying is music. Many of you might say that you study while listening to music. Some people say that it helps them concentrate better. However, although there are people who like to study while listening to music, I don't think I've heard of many people who have improved their grades by studying while listening to music. If you're currently in the habit of studying while listening to music, try studying without listening to music for even a week. Then you can decide which one is better for your study. Also, I don't think music is a problem as long as you can hear it like a noise. I sometimes study in cafes and I don't mind at all if there is music playing that I don't know or I'm not interested in. On the other hand, I don't think it's a good idea to study while listening to your favorite songs that make you want to sing along. Oh! Last but not least, here is the worst mistake you can make. That is not setting goals and plans. This is something you should never ever do. Do you have a clear goal and a plan for studying Korean? Probably most of you started learning Korean because you like Korean dramas or K-pop idols. However, that is not a goal, but a motive. In fact, if you only use this motivation to learn Korean, you will use your persistence when the learning process gets difficult. We can work hard because there is a clear goal of your effort. So you should be excited to achieve the goal. On the other hand, people who don't have their goals definitely have a higher rate of setbacks than those who do. Therefore, it is important to go one step farther from having a motive to having a clear goal. For example, an example of a goal would be, I want to be able to send a heartfelt letter to a K-pop idol instead of I'm going to study because I like a K-pop idol. When you turn this motivation into a goal, your motivation goes up manyfold. At least I've never met anyone who said they lost motivation after setting a goal. I encourage you to set goals that you are excited about and that you definitely want to achieve. And that is one element that every goal needs. It is a deadline. Set a date for when you want to achieve the goal. It is okay to start with something vague. A goal becomes alive only when you put a date on it. On the other hand, if your goal has no deadline, the probability of achieving it is quite low. Next, let's talk about planning. Do you have a study plan? For example, the reference book you're currently working on, what date do you plan to finish it? With any kind of learning, having a plan and not having a plan can actually make a huge difference in your study efficiency. One of the reasons for this is to understand your current situation. First, you need to figure out how much of a gap there is between your ideal self and your current self. Then, if you calculate the number of days left until your target deadline, you will know how much you need to work on today. If you are studying while keeping track of where you are in your study and while knowing when your ability is likely to improve, you will definitely feel your growth. However, if you don't have a plan, you will be studying aimlessly, and just a little thing can make you less motivated and not continue studying. especially if you're studying on your own. Another reason why you should set goals and plans is to make a promise to yourself. We want to keep a promise that is made with someone. It actually works the same way when you make a promise to yourself. It is very important to put pressure on yourself in this way. Of course, it also helps to declare your goals and plans to your family and friends if possible. It's like a last-ditch battle. You can do it because you feel like you have to. And be sure to make it clear whether the goals and plans you set were followed or not. For example, by the end of the year, I will finish my beginner level reference books and write a heartfelt letter to my favorite idol and send it to her and send it to him. Things like that. This way, your goal includes a deadline and is more specific, which will help you study harder and more effectively. Please make a goal and plan for your study. The reason why I chose this goal and plans as the first rank is because the most important thing in studying is not what textbook or who teaches you, but your motivation. Motivation is so influential that it can overweigh even the study method is a little inefficient. Therefore, I hope that you will manage your motivation by setting goals and making plans. That's all for now. I'll see you next time. 그럼 오늘도 행복 가득, 웃음 가득한 하루 되세요. 한국어 파이팅 파이팅 파이팅!